Hello and welcome to Driver's Therapy. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the alternator. Now here recently in 2022, a couple of NSX owners reported that on their way back from NS Expo, their alternators died. So I thought I'd make a really cool video by looking at the service manual and actually making a video about doing some testing procedures. So that's what we're going to be doing here. Now the service manual for the NSX is very helpful. And if you flip through it, you know that they offer a lot of good stuff. Now when it comes to the alternator, they really cover a lot of the areas. They talk about the alternator FR signal, which is the field return signal, and they actually offer a flowchart for that. They also give you some troubleshooting guides for the charge system light test, and they let you know that if you have the test equipment, the Sun VAT-40, you can utilize that to do some more extensive alternator testing. But in this video, what we're going to be doing is doing the power circuit test on the alternator. Now they offer you some schematics and it's really great and helpful. So what we're simply going to do is show you in the video how the process is so you guys get familiar with it. And if you ever have to do it, it'll be second nature. All right, guys, let's get started. Okay, so step one says, first make sure you have a good battery. So here I have a digital multimeter and we're going to go ahead and put it on DC voltage and let's go test our battery. All right, we're at 12.15 volts, so we have a good battery. All right, we did that. And that the alternator belt is tight, in good condition. Let's go ahead and just do that real quick because we're gonna do everything within these small steps. Okay, now we're inspecting the alternator belt. It is tight, it is firm, it is not frayed, it doesn't look bad. The grooves inside the belt look great, so we know that's good. Now it says, make sure the connections at the alternator and main fuses are good. So let's go ahead and get that done as well. In the military, as an avionics guy, they taught you don't look at things, touch things. So you always want to put your hands on stuff. You always want to make sure that you push against things, you look at things, you touch things, you wiggle them. Don't ever assume that if you look at something, something's connected. Always put your hands on it. And for these connectors, they are tight, they look good. And now let's go to the fuses. Okay, we're going to go ahead and touch our 120 amp and our 20 amp fuse. And essentially, I'm going to wiggle it, make sure it's not loose. I'm going to touch that and make sure that's not loose. Also, if you want to go one step further, you can go ahead and test with the multimeter. And I have 12.15 volts, and that's our battery voltage. I'm going to go over to the right. We have 12.15 volts as well on the 120 amp fuse. Now we're going to go to our number 18, which is a 20 amp fuse. We also have 12.15 and we have 12.15 as well. Okay, it says now check number 2 15 amp fuse in the dash fuse box and number 18 20 amp fuse in the main fuse box. Well, we did number 18, so let's go ahead and do number 2. All right, now we're going to be looking at the number 2 fuse in the dash fuse box. Now guys, sometimes you have to fit in tight places and get in different angles and it's a pain in the butt, but it's part of the job. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the number 2 fuse. I'm using that clear diagram that we looked at earlier. And let's go ahead and test both sides of it. And what does that say? 11.7. 11.7. And 11.7. All right. Okay, so we checked number 2 and number 18, and it says if blown, the charge system light will come on even if the system is working properly. So that's good. It's got like a built-in system to let us know if the fuses are blown, which I like. All right, the next thing we're going to be doing is disconnect the 4P connector from the alternator. With the ignition switch on, there should be battery voltage between the IG, black and yellow, terminal and body ground, and between the S, yellow and blue terminal, and body ground. If you look at this wire diagram, we have the alternator here, and we just learned about the ignition, black and yellow wire or terminal. And if you look over here, guys, we have an IG ignition in black and yellow. So there's correlation right there, guys, that you could see that you could continuously use your wiring diagram at all points of time, even when you're reading within the service manual. So now we know that we're going to go ahead and disconnect connector 4P and I believe that's going to be the green connector, and we're going to go ahead and do those tests on a green connector. Okay, so in our NSX, I removed the red plate so we could get access to the 4P green connector. And essentially what I'm going to do, just to be careful with my car here, is we want to get the connector by pressing on this button over here. Slightly awkward, but we got it, and we're going to pull out, and here it is. Now, the really cool thing is that right off the top, I could see a yellow and black wire. And that's important because we know that we could always cross-reference our wires with our wiring diagram just to make sure that we took off the right connector and that it makes sense. Now, if you guys watched the free multimeter course, the advanced one, you guys will know why these are so important to me. These are the ones that I use in Afghanistan, and I love them because I made these, and essentially what they are is they're kind of like probes. I made them where they fit inside multimeters, the leads, and you could test in connectors. As a matter of fact, these were actually pins to military connectors to make it easier. All right, so let's go ahead and use one of my leads to go and test what we need to test on 4P. All right, so it says with the ignition switch on, so let's go ahead and do that. It's on. Okay, it says with the ignition switch on, there should be battery voltage between IG, black and yellow terminal, and body ground. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my lead with my connector. I'm going to locate the pin for it, which is black and yellow. And if I'm correct, it's going to be this one. At this point in time, I'm going to go ahead and ground it. And let me go ahead and set this up for you guys so you guys can see that. And look at that, guys. We have 11.8 volts, and that's our voltage right now. So we know that that is correct, and that is what the service manual says, that we should have voltage. And now it says to do the same thing between S, which is yellow and blue. So it's going to be the one below it. We're going to go ahead and put our lead in there. Now we're going to ground it out. And we also have 11.89 volts, which is correct. So since we have voltage, our testing stops here. But the neat thing is that the service manual continues on with troubleshooting procedures if you didn't have voltage. So that's really neat. Now, some additional advice, if you want to do some additional testing, I recommend removing your alternator and taking it somewhere where they could test it. A lot of places could put it on a machine and they'll let you know if it's bad and if the voltage regulator is working or not. But those are some additional steps you could take by yourself before you have to drop your car off or buy a brand new alternator. Now here at Drivers Therapy, we provide a free digital multimeter class where you can learn all the way from the basics to some advanced tips. Well guys, I hope you found this video very helpful. It was fun doing this stuff. I love just doing all this troubleshooting and looking at the service manual. We appreciate you watching. We welcome you to hit the like button, to subscribe. And guys, you take care, stay safe, and we will talk to you soon.